All right. Our first performer tonight is Pearl Louise in Pass the Nails and Shame the Devil. Get ready for a roller coaster ride fueled with hope, dreams, and hard work as a Southern family originally from Louisiana decides to build a house in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Oakland in the mid-1980s. And now, please welcome the one and only Pearl Louise.
So my mother's giving me directions. Okay, honey, move to your right. Scooch over just a little bit. One more step. That's it, honey. Put it down right there. And that's what I did. I put the rod right in the ground and I hammered it in and I flagged it. I was doing this all day long. There was my mother and I in the Oakland lot, and I was hammering in stakes and flagging them at my mother's direction. And there was my mother, so short, she was standing on a milk crate and looking through the survey machine in the scope that I only see white men in yellow vests and hard hats do. But there was my mother looking through that survey machine with his long telescope legs. I ran up to my mother. Hey, Mom, come on now. Do you know what you're doing? I know what I'm doing. You just do what I tell you to do. Now, my mother rented that survey machine. Now, it was so big, so large, when it's in its case, she can barely, or she couldn't lift it up. As a matter of fact, she couldn't lift it up at all. Now, my mother learned how to use that survey machine by reading books. She didn't go to school. She didn't take classes. She learned on her own. She was self-taught. You guys, it was the 80s. Back in those days, remember, MTV was fairly new, really new with Video Killed the Radio Star. VHS tapes, everybody was watching VHS tapes from Blockbuster Video. Please be kind and rewind. Like I said, I told my kids, it was the 80s. It was brutal back then. Let me tell you, kids, no smartphone. You want to go outside and talk on the phone? Hit the pay phone over there. No internet. Go to school or get a library or get books. And no YouTube. The only tube you'll see is that big old console with the rabbit ears. And no, the remote control is lost. Like I said, the 80s. My mother would read all these construction books and she'll be reading them, and a lot of times she will fall asleep. She snores. Her eyeglasses would be tipped up like that and her eyes would be closed. I would reach over and try to grab a book and she would pop up and say, hey, read that book. With your eyes closed, Mama? Yeah, I read with closed eyes. Anyways, my mother, people would tell everybody, including me, your mother is a very smart woman and very determined. Well, I wanted to be a teacher, a professor at that. Your father and I was going to college. Well, I was going to college. I was going to Southern University in Louisiana. That's for color students. There was another college, honey, called LSU, Louisiana State University, but that was for white students, really white students. Well, after a while, your father and I started having kids, and my hands were full. So I decided to come to California, your father and I. So you guys, back at that lot, there we were, finally finished. And my mother and I was looking out amongst the stakes and the flags that were fluttering in the wind. When my mother said, honey, it's time to go, I was really nervous because I'm saying to myself, what's gonna happen? Are these people gonna pull up the stakes and kick them over or throw garbage like they always do? Well, we came back the next day with bated breath, and there were the stakes. Nothing was moved, nothing was touched, nothing. There were the stakes standing there with the flags, just standing there at attention, waiting for the next duty. I just said to myself, thank you, God. Jesus wept. And my mother said, honey, I told you, our people would not do that to us. Well, there we were. The next day, it was called groundbreaking day. There was my mother, my father, me, and Benny. Now, Benny is my good friend. He's from Africa. Now, I know what you guys are asking. Hey, bro, what country in Africa is Benny from? Let me just say, the country he's from rhymes with grimy ass Africans boosting bad checks. Now I know what you're saying. Hey, girl, Nigeria doesn't rhyme with grimy ass Africans boosting bad checks. I know. But you get my point. Benny would always tell me, this is wonderful. I would love to do this. I am so ready. I told my family in Lagos that I am building a house in Oakland, California. I told Benny, we ain't started yet. So there we were. My father had to build a trench, the circumference of the building, of the size of the building, with his hands, his back, and a shovel. There was my father shoveling. And Benny, I, and my mother would take the dirt clods and throw them on the sign. After a while, I told my mother, hey, Mom, why don't we get a hoe machine or a machine to do that? Why did Dad have to do that? My mother stood up and said, honey, we just don't have the budget for this. Don't worry, honey. Before you know it, we'll be done and on to the next thing. And there was my dad, started digging. He would sweat so much that the sweat would come down his face, down his cheek, and it would drip right in the ground. I would give water to my dad. He would drink it. Thank you, honey. Or he'll go in the back pocket and wipe his forehead in the sweat. My father always worked hard his whole life. He was born in 1929 in the deep, segregated, hateful South of Louisiana. My father never had a chance to go to school. I remember he would tell me this story. Well, I was about 9, maybe 11, schooling in a one-room schoolhouse. All of our teachers were colored back then. Well, a white man came into the classroom and told the teacher, I need me a couple of these colored boys out here to work in that field. Well, he told me and my friend, and we went out with him. When we got out of the schoolroom, that old white man told me, you little niggas don't need no school. And at 9, maybe 11, my father was working in the field behind me. Let me tell you what happened, baby. I would get a leather strap, wrap it around me. Then I had to strap up that plow, you know. Then after that plow, I take that leather strap and I strap that big old mule. And there I was, connected to them all. Me and that mule. 2 mules. Let me tell you, back then, you would break before that leather strap. Plenty of mules would give out, blue, couldn't get back up. Had to put them to sleep, bye. Wrap up their legs, you know, with some rope. Get another mule, catch them there, drag that mule down to that swampland. Then I get my machete or an axe, break up that belly for that mule, blah. Let the guts spill out. Then I take my machete, start cutting up that mule, just cutting them up. I would see all the critters out there just waiting. After a while, the gators would come out that water on their belly. Yeah. Grab them mule parts, bring it right with them into that water, that swampland. It might be about a day or 2 before that mule was completely gone. My mother was right. My father finished digging that trench. And on to the next thing. So this is what we had to do, you guys. After the trench, we had to build this form box. You know this box? Put rebarbs in it. And in the meantime, people in the neighborhood would ask us, I had an attitude. No. Who owns this property? Black folks do. Hey, I didn't think anybody built anything on here. I didn't believe that. Well, believe it now. Anyways, one day, this guy walks up. There was my mother and I sitting on turnover paint buckets, sitting there drinking water and talking to each other. On the other side was my dad and Benny. The guy comes up, first of all, y'all, he swag walks. He was carrying a bag, I think a duffel bag full of tools, and he drops the bag, bam. And he introduced himself. Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, ma'am, how you doing? My name is Benny. No, I'm sorry, my name is DeMarcus. People call me D. Now, when DeMarcus smiled, he was showing 2 gold teeth. He was like, yeah, I see y'all need some help around here, and I'm the one you need. Telling you, let me tell you something. My pops and we used to do this from the ground up. You need me. Man, let me tell you something. I live about 2 blocks from here, and people was telling me, hey, D, hey, DeMarcus, there's a whole lot of Black folks out there close to East 14th Street doing some work. You need to check it out. And I was like, man, yeah, let me check it out. So, ma'am, I was across the street and I was noticing you guys. And I noticed you, ma'am, you was running things. And I said, she's the boss lady. That's right. I got to go to the boss lady. So here I am, boss lady. I need a job. He was smooth, wasn't he? He was smooth. So my mom stands up. Ooh, Thank you so much. Well, I like what you're saying. And everything sounds pretty good. And I do need your help. Good, reliable help. Now, this is what you do, young man. Why don't you go over down there and talk to my husband and my good friend, and maybe tell them what you just told me. So DeMarcus looked at my dad, then he looked at my mom, looked at my dad, he looked at my mom. Okay, I'll be right back. Stepped over his bag and went to my dad. You guys, I smelled alcohol on his breath. He was talking to my dad, animated. Yeah. What? Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I got it. And my dad was just like. Before I knew it, my dad stuck out his arm and shook DeMarcus' hand. What? Wait a minute. Did my dad just hire him? Alcohol and all? DeMarcus came back with a Kool-Aid grin, right? Smile, 2 gold teeth smile. Hey, man. Pops hired me. That's right. He hired me. Moms, I just want to let you know, Pops told me to come here to talk to you about this money, right? I said to myself, Mom, Pops, he's that familiar to my parents already? Hey, sis, I see you out there working too. I just want to let you know, little sis, I'm gonna be working here every day. Sis, every day? Well, I don't have much money, but what I do have, I will pay you, and that saves a lot. So my mother threw out a price, right? And Dee was like, oh, He was swaying in the wind like a hurricane, like a tree, right? Oh, moms, can't you come up with a little bit more money and stuff? I got bills to pay, moms. Well, I got bills to pay too. So she threw out a price and they all agreed on it. I said, oh God, DeMarcus is on the team mom and dad. So then that night, I went over to my dad while we were eating. We went back home. I said, Dad, you didn't smell that alcohol in DeMarcus' breath? My dad was eating. Yeah, I smelled it. But I work on a job site there. Let me tell you something. I always smell drink on men's breath, and they always be working. Just want to say that young man knew what he was doing, and he was working hard. My father was right. DeMarcus was working very hard. Well, time goes by a little bit, and DeMarcus comes up to my mom and said, Mom, check this out. Mom, let me hire these guys. Man, they coming off the streets with a lot of game and running game on you and Pops. We ain't got that kind of money. Let me handle it. Come on, moms. My mom was like, well, if you can do better than me, then please be my guest. That's all DeMarcus had to hear. So DeMarcus started hiring people. Yeah, you look good. Yeah, you know what you're doing. Been watching you all day. Yeah. So you come to work tomorrow, okay? That's when he's hiring. Then he's firing. Hey, man, get your shit. Get the fuck up out here. What the fuck are you talking about? No, that's not how we do it around here. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, check this out. Mickey D's is hiring and he needs another clown. So you go on down there and deal with him. He was like, come on, player. I can know how. No, man, you gotta go. I think DeMarcus likes firing more than he likes hiring. Time goes by, and today, there was DeMarcus likes firing more than he likes hiring. Levi shows up. Ding, 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 ding. Now, Levi is the young kid from the block, and he would always ask DeMarcus all kind of questions. My mother loved Levi, and DeMarcus really liked Levi. Levi was asking a lot of questions. DeMarcus is like, yeah, see, sis, little sis, You gotta help these youngsters right here. Let them know they can build things instead of tearing shit down, instead of being gang members, instead of selling drugs. So I must keep a close eye on Levi. Time goes by, and there down the street in the hood comes, it was a big day, and down the street comes big cement trucks with their rotating steel bellies going down the street. They look like whales passing cars the size of guppies. The guys were beeping the horn, boom, boom. The engine of the diesel engines, wah, wah, was telling everybody in the hood to get the fuck out the way. So here they were going down the street. All of a sudden, the guys were standing at attention. All the men that my mother and DeMarcus hired, they was ready. Levi showed up. Man, look at that. Man, those are big. Stand back, little man. Oh, let me help. I can do something. No, man, you too little. So the guy bounds out the cement truck with the clipboard and a delivery bill to be signed and payment to be made. After my mom and dad was finished with that, the guy puts on his gloves like this, puts on his gloves and pulls out that long steel slide in the cement truck. He's standing there, pause. Everybody, a lot of people in the neighborhood started gathering around, seeing what is happening at a distance. He looked at my dad and he looked at DeMarcus, and DeMarcus said, yeah. And the cement guy, he pulls down the switch. Yoink. All of a sudden, I hear the rumbling in that cement. Then before I know it was a big gas fart. And all of a sudden, the cement started going down this way, down the side. And DeMarcus was giving orders to the man, move the slide over here. He was barking orders at the guys. Get over there, man. Get over there with the shovels. Squish. In their wet boots up to here. Squish. Squish. They was taking shovels, throwing shovels this way, and throwing cement over that way. At the end of the day, it was very late at night almost. We roped off the job site. We were finished. And what we did, we spent shifts to stay overnight with the wet cement. Because I'll be damned if I have somebody do an electric slide on the cement. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, this way, to the left, to the right. So I stayed up late at night and we watched till the cement hardened. My mother was looking at these young men that just came off the street. Some were on parole, some hadn't worked in years. Some were drug dealing, didn't want to do it. And she was very proud of these young men. DeMarcus really was tight to these guys. He called his men, his crew, BMW. Not like the car BMW, but BMW, Black Men Working. That was the team. And my parents were very proud of him because the team was telling everybody in the hood. And yeah, it was the ghetto. That's what people would say, that if Black men work together, we can build something. Telling the whole neighborhood. But I stood there looking around. And I'm telling myself, this is hope and hard work. We got so much to do. I just prayed on it. Thank you very much.
That was a hell of a story, wasn't it? Per Louise, everybody. All right, and now for something completely different, as they say. Our second performer tonight is Alan Harris in Tantrums. This piece is anger done funny. Well, done angrily. Please welcome Alan Harris.
Good evening. I would like to begin by reading a poem written by me about me. But before I do, I feel that I should warn you. There will be swearing. In fact, there's going to be a lot of swearing. You see, that is how I express myself, profanely, crudely, obscenely, offensively, in a direct, aggressive, no holds barred, take no prisoner kind of way. And I see that you can handle that. But if there's anyone here who can't, well, you're welcome to leave. I mean, no one is holding you here against your will. There's the door. Excuse me. Are you looking for the exit? No, it's not over there. It's over there where I was just pointing. Yeah, it's on the other side of the room. Yeah, that's it. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, now turn left. Okay, you see the exit? No, that's not the exit. That's the door to the men's room. I mean, can't you tell? You see the little stick figure drawing of the man on it? You see the word men underneath that? You see the sign underneath that says restrooms are for customers only? That's because that's the door to the men's room. The exit is next to it. No, to the right. No, the other right. Oh my God. I mean, it has the word exit in big red letters above it. Are you blind or do you just not know how to read? You know what? Why don't you just come back and sit down, and when I'm done, I will personally show you where the exit is. No, I can't show you now. I'm about to read my poem. Yes, the one with all the swearing in it. I understand the point of you wanting to leave now so that you won't have to sit through my poem and listen to all the swearing. But you know what? There's a very good chance that the next poet who comes up here is also going to read a poem that has swearing in it. Poets often use profanity. It's a very effective form of expression. And I'll tell you something else. You want to go to poetry readings, you better lose that easily offended sensibility of yours. Poetry ain't beanbag. Poetry is life. And in life, people swear. And real poets reflect that. Real poets confront the readers of their poems with the raw, ugly language of real people living real lives. It's the poetry of the modern world, of profound confusion, of moral ambiguity, of existential angst, of corruption of the soul. And you expect a poet to express that without swearing? No, I'm sorry. You're in the wrong place. And there's the door. Where are you going? Why do you keep going back to that other door? It's over there where you were. Yes, come back. Yes, that's right. Come back, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. Turn left. No, that's the door to the men's room. It's the door to the right. No, the other right. You know what? Hold on. I'll be right there. Oh, hello. Is that a gun? Are you pointing a gun at me? Are you mugging me? Is this a mugging? Oh my God. This is so exciting. I've never been mugged before. I'm a crime victim virgin. What's that? You're sorry? you're only mugging me because you're on drugs. Oh, I see. You need money to buy drugs, and that's your excuse for mugging me. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm on drugs too. In fact, I'm stoned and drunk right now. In fact, if I wasn't so stoned and drunk right now, I could have opened the front door of my apartment building and gotten inside before you even had the chance to mug me. The only reason that you're even able to mug me is because I'm so stoned and drunk right now. In fact, if I wasn't so stoned and drunk right now, I could just reach out with my left hand and grab your gun while using my right hand to push you down the stairs. And then you would be lying in a crumpled heap at the bottom of the stairs while I went inside and called the police, who would come and scoop you up and take you away. As the media descended upon my street, wanting to know the story of the citizen who refused to be a victim and who acted out the fantasy of anyone who has ever been violated by a street thug. No offense. I would attain the stature of a national figure. Books would be written about me. TV movies would tell my story. And bumper stickers with phrases like, "Don't harass Alan Harris," would adorn cars. But because I'm so stoned and drunk right now, none of that is going to happen. So spare me your lame excuses. Yeah, just take my money and my dignity and my innocence and my sense of security and my sense of well-being and my belief in the basic goodness of all people and in a just and balanced universe, and fuck off. Besides, we both know that drugs are not an excuse. They're a symptom. Class warfare, institutional racism, a society plagued by rampant materialism, a media that lies, and corruption eating away at every level of our government have conspired to force you to mug me. America stole my $18, not you. But hey, sorry for getting on my soapbox. And thanks for listening, Mr. Mugger. Oh, and have a good night. Yes, this message is for Alan Harris. Mr. Harris, our records indicate that your account is now 90 days past due. Our records also indicate that you have ignored our repeated requests to bring your account up to date. Now, Mr. Harris, you may see us as a huge and faceless corporation which provides services to millions of people. And you may think that as long as the majority of these people pay their bills on time and in full, that a handful of people, such as yourself, Mr. Harris, can just slide, ignoring the contractual obligation that you have made to our company. But let us assure you, Mr. Harris, that while we are indeed a huge corporation, we are anything but faceless. In fact, we employ thousands of faces which belong to people whose lives, nay, whose very existences depend on you honoring your commitment to us. People like Director of Personnel Jack Stevens, who has a wife and 4 children and 2 mortgages and a summer home in the Hamptons and a 40-foot sailboat, which is, incidentally, his only means of communing with nature, an environment which, in the highly pressurized and completely dehumanizing hustle and bustle of daily urban life, is all that stands between him and complete and utter madness. People like customer service representative Rose Fernandez, single mother and sole means of support for bright-eyed and delightful little 14-month-old Michael Fernandez, whose young life is in your hands, Mr. Harris. For you see, Mr. Harris, when you entered into a contractual obligation with our company, you not only made a commitment to a corporate entity, but you also took partial responsibility for the lives of fellow human beings. In short, Mr. Harris, we are not just a corporation of huge proportions and vast holdings. We are America. And if you feel that it is unnecessary for you to honor your commitment to America, well then, why don't you just move to Russia? Yeah, that's it. Why don't you just move to Russia, Mr. Harris? And then maybe after you've had a taste of how the Russians deal with people who refuse to conform, who refuse to toe the party line, who refuse to contribute to the greater good, maybe after you've spent a decade rotting in a Russian prison, completely isolated, starved nearly to death, and totally forgotten by anyone who has ever known you, well then maybe you'll appreciate how little we asked of you. But don't get us wrong, Mr. Harris. This has gone far beyond us simply interrupting your service or reporting you to a credit agency like Experian. Oh, no. We have plans for you, Mr. Harris. We're going to make an example of you. For you see, Mr. Harris, as we are a corporation of huge proportions and vast holdings, we can affect your life in ways that you could never even imagine. And in case you think we're bluffing, well, bear in mind that a certain female presidential candidate didn't pay her bill either. Russian intervention, our ass. So you see, Mr. Harris, if you fuck with us, you get burned. If you have any questions regarding this message, please contact our accounting department. And may you rot in hell. I am a server in a seafood restaurant. I have a guest who tells me that he wants to order one of the non-seafood items on our menu, a steak. And he explains to me that the reason that he is ordering a steak and not a seafood item is because he is deathly allergic to seafood. And therefore his steak must be prepared in such a way as to not come in contact with anything that has also come in contact with seafood. It must be cooked on a surface in which no seafood has ever been cooked. The utensils given to him to eat the steak must have never been used to eat seafood. The plate on which the steak is served must have never been used to serve seafood. That his allergy to seafood is so severe that if his steak comes in contact with anything that has ever at any time in the history of the world also come in contact with seafood, no matter how many times that thing has been washed, he could die. Now, have I mentioned that I'm a server? What used to be called a waiter before political correctness demanded that the terms waiter and waitress be replaced by the non-gender specific term server, that I'm a server of food and not a medical professional, not a doctor or a nurse or even a paramedic, that I'm someone who merely serves food to people. And yet, despite my lowly station in life, this man feels that it is entirely appropriate for him to put his life into my hands, to place on my shoulders the burden of keeping him alive, to be the only thing standing between him and almost certain death by seafood in a seafood restaurant. Maybe, I think, he doesn't realize that he's in a seafood restaurant. Maybe the fact that almost every item on the menu is some sort of seafood doesn't make it apparent enough to him that he is in fact sitting in a seafood restaurant. Maybe the decor, which includes life preservers and life jackets and fishing nets and even fish mounted on the walls. Oh, as well as paintings of fishermen at sea actually fishing, as well as fish tanks and lobster tanks and an oyster bar and a sushi bar. Maybe none of these things is enough to alert this man to the fact that he is in fact in a seafood restaurant. The one place that a person like him, someone with an allergy to seafood so severe that just taking a photograph of him with a camera that has a fish eye lens on it to kill him, should never go into. I mean, does he have some sort of death wish? What if he does? What if he knows very well that he's in a seafood restaurant and he has given me this impossible mission because he wants me to fail at it? If so, what the fuck? I mean, if you want to kill yourself, take an overdose of sleeping pills or jump off the Golden Gate Bridge like a normal person. Don't hatch an elaborate plot that hinges on the failure of some poor, pathetic food server to carry out an unrealizable task. Waiting tables is stressful enough without a body count to contend with. Finally, I have to ask. Excuse me, sir, but if you're so perilously allergic to seafood, why would you even risk walking into a seafood restaurant, let alone ordering food in one? He points at the two people sitting at the table with him. My friends wanted seafood. Oh, your friends wanted seafood. Well, may I suggest that if these two people were really your friends, that they would be willing to forego seafood for one night so that you could have a fighting chance of living through the meal? I mean, you think that if they were really your friends, they wouldn't want you to risk your life just because they're in the mood for crab cakes. Okay, I don't actually say this, I just think it. What I actually say is, I'm sorry, sir, but there's no way that I can guarantee your safety. It's then that he asks to speak to the manager, who thankfully assigns the table to another server as he feels that my relationship with this particular guest has deteriorated due to my excessive concern for his well-being. With all the condescension he can muster, the manager suggests to me that maybe food server isn't the right profession for me, since I obviously can't handle the pressures that come with the job. I suggest to him that maybe someone working for tips shouldn't be put in the position of having to safeguard someone else's entire existence. Yeah. The next day, I apply for a job with the post office because the post office provides a valuable service, has room for advancement, is the largest employer of union workers in the country. Go unions! And as far as I know, no one is allergic to the mail. As far as I know.
Well, that is what I call anger done funny. Alan Harris. Well, speaking of funny, we have a comedian to round out the evening tonight. Lucas Larson with an hour of building jokes, or a little less than an hour. Lucas continues to bring jokes to the stage while he builds his hour of comedy. Lucas Larson, everybody.
very charismatic. It seems like a crowd that would like some crowd work. Handshake. End of crowd work. Spider-Man at a heavy metal concert. Just a big mess. I know things about World War II. Learned 20% of them from school. And 80% of them from Indiana Jones. And despite my vibe up here, no, I was not homeschooled. Some of you are picking up on my energy. The rest of you are confused. I don't do segues. They're dangerous. Next joke, okay. Before the pandemic, I volunteered at a science camp for small children. And at the end of camp, all the children filled out notes with prompts on them. And my favorite prompt was, where will your camp counselor, that's me, be in 5 years? And my favorite response was 67 question mark. Like, I really appreciated the question mark. Wine connoisseur. Honestly, this sounds like a dinosaur that likes to party. You have carnivores, herbivores, and wine connoisseurs. Don't let the T-Rex get a hold of the Pinot Noir. They literally can't put it down. I'm from Colorado, which means I'm legally forced to like hiking. And my least favorite thing about hiking is when I'm hiking up and someone hiking down unprompted says, almost there. Because all I can think is, hey, that fucker thinks I'm not gonna make it. Because I follow hiking, I recently heard that on average for lost hikers, they have to search on average the area of Delaware. And I didn't know Delaware was a unit of measurement for lost hikers. I'm like, what unit of measurement do they use for lost hikers in Delaware? Like, they can't get on the evening news and be like, yeah, we've searched everywhere and still can't find that. So instead, they get on the evening news and are like, yeah, we've searched the area of 10 super targets. I recently rode a bicycle across the state of Iowa, slightly bigger than Delaware. And did this in July with 20,000 other people. I had a lot of cool people, but the most memorable person just kept telling me, wherever you're going, show up inspired. And I learned that it's really hard to tell the difference between inspiration and heat stroke. Like, I was really inspired in 100 degrees. So I wanted to tell them some cool things. And I was just like, hey, did you know that Delaware is a unit of measurement for lost hikers? This is completely true. People pay $5,000 to $10,000 for other people to name their unborn child. And I want to be the other people. but I don't know how to get that job because I don't have experience naming people. I'd like to build my resume right now. Alex, 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 Alex. Gonna apply for that job later tonight. Hell yeah, we've upped the confusion for some Alexes, okay. I own a pet beta fish. I got the beta fish to counteract my alpha energy. How with the beta fish, I have net zero alpha energy. I was recently walking in the city and saw a storm drain that said no dumping, followed by a picture of a fish. So I didn't dump. I wasn't tempted to dump. But let me tell you, if it said no dumping, followed by a picture of a turtle, I'd be tempted to dump because I'd be like, this city could really use some teenage crime fighters. Next joke, hell yeah. Okay. I'm colorblind, the medical kind, which means my red is your green and your green is my red. So I get real nervous when people ask me what my favorite color is. Because I'm just like, from what perspective? Let me tell you, I am terrified of people with green eyes. I'm a really big fan of Star Wars. That's my first time telling you that, but you already knew that. I also have a human wife. She's very, very real. We met in Barcelona. And then for our second date, I texted her, hey, do you want to fly yourself to Portugal in 72 hours, smiley face? To which she responded, O-K, but everyone I know is tracking my phone. To which I responded, sounds good, see you soon. And I was really nervous for the second date. I was really nervous because I didn't know how many beds to book. Like, do I assume and book one queen bed? Or do I not assume and book 2 twin beds? So I went to the Portugal airport, fully expecting that night to be me alone with the 3 beds that I booked. Things went well though. And I found out that the queen bed was really just 2 twin beds put together. I'm like, fuck, now I'm the weirdo that booked the room with 4 beds. Things went so well, in fact, that she was like, tie me up and do whatever you want to me. So I tied her up and put on Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Kept calling her Precious. Now travel a lot and was recently in a duty-free store for the very first time. And personally, going into a store where no one had any duties, I was expecting a lot more anarchy. Back to the very real wife, very real, okay. So things are going well, and I have to tell you that because of what I'm going to tell you next. And that is, for the whole first year of dating, I mispronounced her first name. Name is Neus. She was like, hey, my name isn't News, it's Neus. And I was like, those are the exact same words. But since he started it, I was like, hey, you've actually been calling me by the wrong first name. My first name isn't Luke, it's Lucas. And she was like, I know your name is Lucas, but I also know you're a really big fan of Star Wars. And I thought it was a lot sexier to date the hero of the story instead of the director. Made up after that. Made up and he called me daddy for the first time. I was like, no. I am your father. I told you I'm a big Star Wars fan. Okay. But he's European and I'm American, so like have slightly different like superstitions. Like she's a really big cat lover, but in Spain, cats only live for 7 years. So I'm like, hey, you should move to the US and your cat will live 2 more years. I also didn't know like if we were on the same page for kids or not. So at like a European castle on a third date, I was just like, there is a sea monster eating a small child that was carved into the stone. And I was just like, hey, what do you think of that sea monster eating this small child? And her response was, I'm team sea monster. I'll let her know that didn't go well. Okay. And finally, she's European and I'm American. So we argue about how to measure things. Like she's European, so she's like, metric system is the best. And I'm American, so I immediately went to Google to find out what our system is called. Then she's European, so she's like, Celsius is the best. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, nice round number. And I'm American, so I'm like, Fahrenheit is the best. Water boils when I see bubbles. Thanks everyone, I'm Lucas Arthur.
Back and take a bow, we'll get. All right, now Lucas, Pearl, and Alan will sit on stage. There you go. Yeah, for those, as many of you as can stay for the Q&A, great. If you can't, we understand. All right. How about another round of applause for her? So sometimes our people to be the first one to ask the question. I want to be brave. Yay! Sure, go ahead.
Wait, so, did you guys work with directors for these, performances tonight, or you were your own director?
I didn't work with anyone. I write everything myself and then perform around the city and do like trial and error. The best thing about comedy is you get immediate feedback and it's really binary.
Yeah.
No,
No director?
No.
Okay.
I do. I have a director. His name is David Ford.
Oh,
He works out of the marsh, you know, yeah.
Who else has a question? Hi, Pearl.
Oh,
I don't have a question.
Hi,
I just want to say hi.
Oh, it's been. It's good to be, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see
Alan,
you.
how did you decide on what you wanted to talk about?
And how to decide on which pieces I want to do?
yeah.
Well, I write, my main artistic outlet is the spoken word community of San Francisco, poetry and spoken word. And some of the things I write lend themselves more to like they're sort of monologue-ish and are more theatrical. So that's why I chose these.
Oh, great.
Alan, I have a question about your pieces. So sometimes people make pieces out of whole cloth and sometimes they're partly true or mainly true. What's your story? What is the relationship to like actual occurrences in your life?
Well, the the piece about being mugged is actually based on 2 times that I was mugged. One time by somebody who actually did apologize to me. So that was the inspiration for that. He literally said, "I'm sorry, I'm on drugs." And I thought, I didn't say it, but I thought, yeah, I'm on drugs too, but I'm not mugging anyone. The last piece, the seafood piece, I did work in a seafood restaurant and excuse me, I had 2 different customers at different times who literally both said, "I'm allergic to seafood, so you need to make sure that, you know, nothing that touches my food has touched seafood." And I'm like, "But no, it's a seafood restaurant." He says, "Oh, I've had it done here before." And I'm like, "Well," and I was, my safety was guaranteed, and I thought, no. But, anyway, yeah. So those 2 pieces are based on real life.
About building a house with your parents, how did they know how to do it?
They learned on their own as they were doing it,
They just, you never had any experience with doing that tradition before?
not from the ground up.
Wow.
They didn't, yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
The house is still there,
Yes, it is.
still living there?
Yes. It's rented out.
Oh,
And a little bit about the story, it wasn't a house, it was a duplex.
oh,
So she wanted to do a duplex. That's a, yeah.
so did they rent the other side out?
Yeah, oh, I don't stay there. It was just something that she wanted to build. One day yeah, and I was like, a duplex, you know, it's, yeah, this would be great. I said, oh, really? That's when I looked around, I saw we got so far to go.
Well, I want to ask you, how do you decide what to keep in and what to keep out in 20 minutes? It's a really complex story and you have so many great characters, and how do you decide what stays and what doesn't stay?
That's very difficult. That was. I wanted to just a little snippet about the young man that really helped us. And really the day when I didn't believe that she wanted to do it, but she was my mother. You know, you do what your mother tells you to do. And so I was out there and she was learning things that didn't even, like the scope, for the survey machine. She just said, okay, we're going out here to do this. And I said, come around, do you know what you're doing? And she's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. So yeah, she didn't go to school or anything like that. She taught herself. Yeah.
So the smartest people just read books and do it, and that's a cool part of your piece. I really appreciate that, being a school librarian.
Yeah.
Kids are just on their cell phones, they learn some of their cell phones, but it's like really cool if you pick a book up and
Read.
learn how to do something with your hands. Your mom showed you, and that's really good.
And, you know, she would fall asleep with all these construction books, you know, in her chest and, you know, and fall asleep and I would take them. And it was just something she wanted to do. And I was just so surprised. And again, I was kind of young, you know, enough where she could tell me what to do, you know, but not, and I just went ahead with her. And my father just didn't go against what she wanted, you know, so basically she thought in the 80s, it was during the beginning of the crack epidemic. And there were a lot of vacant lots in Oakland. And she thought it'll be great if we can build something for the community to live in. And yeah, so that was my mother. She didn't, you know.
She's still alive?
No, she's passed on.
What is your, what was your sign?
Her sign,
Yeah, astrological sign.
okay, she was born in September.
Yeah.
Do you need more thing?
Like early or mid?
Oh, she was September 20th.
Oh, so she was like on the cusp of Virgo, and that makes sense, 'cause I was gonna guess she's Capricorn,
Capricorn, huh?
very hard worker, earth sign,
Yeah.
and Virgo, earth sign also,
Mhm.
and very like particular, and
Yeah.
they're definitely self-sufficient, and I just had to know, it's because for me, like I'm here.
Yeah, no
That's so
problem.
cool.
Yeah, and there was a lot of tears because I was, if you ever build a place, we were going through the seasons.
Yeah.
And it was raining. I was like,
Her birthday's coming up. It's awesome. Yeah, happy birthday to your mom.
thank you so much.
So Pearl, is that part of the story? Are you doing more?
Oh, yes, I'm working with Mr. Ford, David Ford, and I'm gonna do a full play about it and about all the cast of characters that happened from, there was a lot of shooting sometimes because it was a drug war that was going on. And yeah, there was a lot of people and she wasn't afraid, I said, Mom, and stuff. And we had this young man, DeMarcus. He lived down the street. So he just told my mother, I know everybody in this neighborhood, who to hire, who not to hire. So my mother needed someone like that. Yeah.
I wanted
Oh,
to just
sorry.
comment real quick, that part about the gators coming up with them, that was very. It's like, whoa, this is like,
Yeah, and I would go back down south. And my father always told me, certain parts, if you walk 50 feet, you get lost in the swamps, so, because it'll grow really back really quick. And they'd be there, quiet in the bog, and stuff, so you gotta be careful and stuff, yeah. So he grew up there, and that's what he had to do, so. So for him, that's not a lot of work. Yeah.
Luke, what those comedians do you admire or
I really like Patton Oswalt, Tig Notaro, and Steve Martin are probably like where I draw the most inspiration. Like Tig Notaro, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he would have lots of energy, but like more like hidden punchlines, and then like Tig Notaro's like probably the slowest performing comedian. That's like well known, and then Patton Oswalt's just pretty nerdy, so sort of, yeah.
Have you been to every one of the comics you admire? You've been to every one of their shows before, or?
Yeah, I've seen all three, but I've seen like Steve Martin was like the first comedian ever to like sell out arenas, but that was in like, I think like the 90s, so I didn't see him then, but saw him when he came back.
Now he plays banjo, right?
Yeah, he plays
Plays the band.
banjo
Music and stuff.
with like Martin Short and stuff.
Yeah.
Alan, who would you say are your influences?
Huh. Well. My influences, that's interesting. I mean, I'm a big fan of certain comedians as well, George Carlin and these more, he's practically theater. Some of what George Carlin did, and so I'm definitely influenced by that sort of thing. I'd really have to kind of think about it, to say the truth.
The pantomimes and everything you were doing tonight was a little Carlin-esque, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Really great to see you just, really run.
Well, thanks.
Have you been performing in front of a mirror and?
No,
No?
I took a class here, like 10 years ago. And I forget, I hate to say this, I forget the name of the teacher. He was a really good guy, and it was kind of improv based, and some of the and I picked up some techniques from that class, you know, and I just, you know, just trying to be more physical with what I was doing, and as I did it, I developed the physicality.
Yeah, it really came to life.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Also, can I say there is one person that I am, who I know currently, who I'm very influenced by, spoken word artist named Clyde Always, who is one of the great spoken word artists in the city, and
Oh, geez.
so he's a very
I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I love that name, he's performed at the Mark.
yes,
Yeah.
Clyde Always is from River Marsh, absolutely, and he's he's definitely somebody who's been a great influence on me. So Clyde, so
he plays the accordion too, right?
Clyde Always?
Yeah.
No, he plays ukulele. Yeah,
Ukulele, uh-oh.
he has a ukulele that
From
he's,
sales.
yeah, he's quite extraordinary.
Lucas, we have a question from Zoom land for you. Two questions. I'm gonna ask in the reverse order. I hope it's all right. First, how did you get started with comedy?
Just heard about an open mic, I was in the area and went to the open mic. I encourage anyone who is thinking about doing comedy to just find a stage to perform. The vast majority of people I know that have tried it, regardless of how it goes, they know if they're hooked pretty quick, or they know if they're like, that was miserable and I don't want to do that again.
I'm gonna dig a little deeper. Okay, so there was an open mic, you took advantage of it. But like days, weeks, years before that, were you thinking, one of these days, I wanna get up on stage, or was there something that prompted it? Were people always telling you were funny, or what got you to the point where you were ready to go up and do stand up at that open mic?
So I was doing music in a band, and like a band's like a team sport, and you have to like coordinate with a bunch of people. And then tried some improv after reading, I was reading an article, and the article was like common personality traits of stand-up comedians, and related to like a lot of the traits. So then and I like started stand-up and improv pretty much at the same time. After reading that article and like shifting away from music, and like back to the instant feedback, comedy, you get instant feedback, where like music, you can work on a song for months, or well, we never made it to years, but some people do years, and then you're like, I hope this is good, and you might find out that it's not as good as you think it is.
The other question is, have you performed sets anywhere else? Dr. Mark?
Yeah, perform all over San Francisco. So I working on getting booked on showcases. Like the best showcase in the city is the Punchline Comedy Club every Sunday, and performed there a few times, and then at other venues in the city, and then on, like, if I'm not booked on any showcases, there's still the open mics available, and that's where all jokes begin and most jokes die.
Who else has a question? Well, Pearl, I have a question for you. Like, I mean, you're a wonderful storyteller. Where did it start for you? Like, where did you like to tell stories in school? How did you end up performing here at the March? Or even taking a class we did before?
I think I got a lot of my storytelling from my dad. And, you know, sometimes, and just with families, oh, what did you guys do today? And, you know, tell me what happened. Now tell me the truth, you know, and stuff like that. So, and when I've always loved the Marsh, would come to see shows. And I thought, maybe if I'll take a class. And after I took a class with David Ford, he's accepting students now, David Ford, for the Marsh. Yeah, so when I was talking with Mr. Ford, I said, maybe I'll try it. I try it. Because a lot in the Black community, a lot of things that's handed down is usually just stories. And then after a while, people will pass on. There's nothing really kind of written down, unfortunately. Like I've always asked my dad that, hey, Dad, maybe you should, write a story. But again, he can barely read and write, my father. So he would just tell me things that happened to him. Yeah.
Pearl, sorry, so your parents are from Louisiana, and are you also from Louisiana?
Yes.
Okay, you were young when you moved down, and you grew up in Oakland, more or less?
No, I grew up in Fremont, California.
Okay.
Yes, but I had a lot of family in Oakland. So, and then we would always go to Oakland and then always go back home down the south.
And you've got extended family. And you've been, I presume, you've been to visit?
Yes, I have, but because people are dying off.
Oh,
Yes, people are dying off.
but would you get together and boil a big thing of crawfish?
Well,
You were-
no, not like, again.
You're allergic to seafood.
My father's all he spoke was Creole.
Yeah.
He never spoke, I guess, English or so. So when he came to California and stuff like that, he didn't want as his children to learn Creole.
Right.
His mother and everybody, that's all they spoke. My mother used to tell me, I would go in the house and they will all speak Creole, honey, and they'll change up to English when they're working for whoever they were working for.
Sure.
But he didn't want to, which was when we moved down there, a lot of people would say, oh, you're from the South,
Yeah.
And when my father would speak with his dialect, he didn't want to be singled out.
Right.
And he wanted his children to speak pretty good English because I started pronouncing like my father would pronounce and stuff. And I always put after class and stuff because I will always speak a lot like my father did. And so I had to stop that after that.
And you're fluent in Creole?
No, my father wouldn't teach me, but he
Oh.
was. Remember we had the Hades problem in the 80s and they needed a lot of people to speak Creole? It was the flooding or the earthquake in Hades. I remember one time they were, a lot of people from Louisiana speaks Creole. So, it's from like Iberville. And Louisiana is very unique because we don't have counties, we have parishes. And so we still have that Spanish and French Napoleon laws that's still on books that people don't know about, but yeah. So Louisiana is very, very different down south.
Any last questions?
What are you all doing now?
Oh.
Do you have anything else scheduled?
No. I'm trying to still work on my play. So I like to put it out, I'll try to put it out more and get a little website. I would like to try to get a website or so and my play. But right now, nothing. Yeah, thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
No plans, just continuing to work in the spoken word community, the fabulous spoken word community, of which there are several leading members here.
I'm on social media everywhere at L Squared Comedy and post shows there. And then I'm actually launching a podcast in a few weeks that I'm excited about. It's an improvised podcast where it's called Cliff Notes Continued. And we read a Cliff Notes of a book, me and my co-host, and then we create the next book on the spot.
Let me just to make sure, Alan or Pearl, thank you, Lucas, for sharing, we can find you. you want to share, is there any particular way that we can get a hold of either of you?
Well, I like to try to put a website together
Okay,
and with when I'm performing, so I think that'd be easier for me. So look out for that, you know. So,
all right,
yeah.
too calm. Now,
Yeah, to come.
You want my phone number? I'd rather not give that out. I, okay, I'm on Facebook. I can't say I'm big on the social media, but I am on Facebook. It's probably the main way to, and Alan Harris is such an uncommon name, so it shouldn't be hard to find me on there. But yeah, that's the best place to do it.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you very much. That's great in so many different ways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. And obviously, thanks to all of you for coming out. Really, this would be like, not a whole lot of fun without you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,